Kelvin, good to see you. It's the first time I managed to speak to you after, of course, the decision the other week. We stood in the East End. What's the state of it now? What's going on behind the scenes at the moment?
We're just continuing to talk to the council. Obviously, we're moving on. You know, the decision was made, and we've now got to get on and make sure we get the legal paperwork done and continue to work with the council. Obviously, they've got some challenges maybe in the background, but that's not really for us to worry about necessarily. We're here. We've got Buckingham's are actually. I've spoken to Buckingham's already since the meeting, and actually the managing director's coming down to meet me and James on today, this afternoon, and we're going to talk through about what needs to happen from their side. So we're just cracking on. You know, we're excited about it. We're up here now. We're as you can see, it's a great view from up here. We want to get on with it.
You mentioned then the potential challenges to the council. Of course, Sildara have launched, they say they intend to launch a judicial review. I know this is, it doesn't concern you in the way that it's not against you, it's against the council, but does it concern you?
Any delay is a problem. There's no question about that. Any delay that comes now from this process is detrimental to the football club. Absolutely, 100%. But any decision is always, just because you've made a decision doesn't mean you've done it wrong or you've made a mistake or whatever. Just someone's going to disagree with that decision, and Sildara obviously do. So they've got a process to go through themselves, but it doesn't affect us. The good thing for us as a club, one of the best things about this is no one's looking at the club anymore and saying you've done anything wrong. Everyone's looking at us and going, "Well, yeah, you've gone through the process, you've done what you need to do." I think it's fair to say I don't think anybody, and if anyone is saying that the process wasn't transparent, they've obviously got some sort of agenda, because it was the most transparent and robust process that I've ever been through, and the football club's been through. And really, and if you look at it, the Sildara bid came from the fact that it was a transparent process, because that really only came through when the cabinet papers came out. So I think the council will probably robustly defend the transparency of the process, because we've had full council meetings, we've had cabinet meetings, we've had a lot of opportunities for people to speak. So, but either way, it's we have to be relaxed about it, because we can't impact it, and it's nothing to do with us. It's to do with the council and Sildara, and they've got to have their own sort of discussions around that, and we just have to continue what we're doing. We want to move forward positively and move on to the next stage. Hopefully.
You mentioned it there in terms of kind of its immediate impact. I imagine the process of drawing up the legal contracts will still continue in the background. You mentioned you're talking to Buckingham's this afternoon as well. All that you just continue as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Until somebody says, a lawyer or a judge maybe says that you can't do that. A judicial review anyway is not going to say, oh, the decision was wrong. You can only be reviewed on, the council can only be reviewed on process. So if they're confident they followed the appropriate process and got all the legal advice and they got everything else, then we can't really concern ourselves with that. We are again very comfortable that we've acted appropriately, professionally. We've consulted with our fans. We've spoken to our fans. We've kept them up to date. And today is the same. We're talking because you asked us about the Sildara situation, and we're letting fans know what's going on from our perspective, and we're moving ahead, and we'll try and do everything we can, like we have throughout this whole process, to try and ensure that we can get to a successful conclusion.
Aside from Sildara, and we talked about legal contracts, and of course the contract is coming up as well, what's the latest status with the ACV, the athletics track at the moment? Because that was a potential speed bump for you. What's the latest on that?
Well, the former athletics track, I think, the disused, and you can probably take some pictures of it over there. It's certainly not a community benefit land right now. But what I will say is, and it's an interesting position, because obviously as a ACV holder, the trust are in a position now where I think they have 6 weeks from the date. I don't even know what date it is to say they're going to make a bid. And then they have a further 4.5 months to actually put the bid together. And then it's only a right to bid. The council don't have to take that, don't have to sell it to anybody. But it would be, I think we were probably in a position to we would have thought that if you remember back at the full council meeting and the trust statements, Andy spoke on behalf of the trust, and he spoke from as the trust official position, and they said a couple of things, and they said to the council that they understand, I think it's the council and the club that need to come to an agreement, which we have. They also said that they would see no benefit of the land going to a third party. So we're probably slightly surprised they haven't come out and said anything about Sildara making all these noises. We probably would have hoped or maybe expected them to say something about that already, because they did make quite a few statements prior to the council agreement, and also sent a lot of letters to the council and cabinet members prior. In regards to the ACV land. So, and then the final point, which I think is the most important point, is they asked us if we could consider actually including the whole land for the benefit of the club. Now, obviously, as we said at the time, whether it's NTFC or CDNL, we believe that it's for the benefit of the club anyway. But we listened, and you can only, if someone has a point, you can only listen to that. And we listened, and the council listened, and we agreed that the whole athletics track would come under the ownership of NTFC. And if you read the heads of terms, it actually says it there, and it will say in the legal agreement, it can only be used for the benefit of the football club. So, in essence, the trust, technically got what they said they wanted. So, and we can only assume that that's what they still want. Sorry, I've got something in the eye. But we can only assume that's what they still want, and because it was only 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago they said that. So we're probably fully expecting them to say, we're not going to challenge the ACV at this point, because the athletics track is going to the benefit of the football club, legally and in writing, and you can see it on the council website. So we kind of feel that they got what they wanted in that aspect, so that's fine, and we're fine with it, because it was always going to benefit the football club anyway. So we're fine with that, and we're relaxed about that as well, and it's it's kind of open to the trust, and it's up to them. Obviously, they do have the option to say they want to buy it, but realistically, that would probably be the most surprising thing, because and I understand that is an option, but I don't understand why they would do that, because we would still own the leases, and there is no break clause on the athletics track. So we own the football club owns the leases for 140 years or something like that. So they could buy it, but then not do anything with it, and that would just be a spoiling tactic. And we would be very, very surprised if a supporters trust would even go down that road. But hey, listen, never say never in football. That's always been a motto of mine. So, but in reality, we feel that we've followed through on what they requested, and with the council, and we're in a decent shape. It's an interesting. It's really interesting right now, and the landscape has probably changed somewhat, because the perception was we were fighting with the supporters trust or whatever sometimes, but we're really not. We're not. We don't fight. We're not fighting with the supporters trust, because we feel like now we've given them what they wanted, so they have that protection, or the football club has that protection. It seems like we get tagged into a lot of stuff. If you look at some of the social media stuff, it's almost like the supporters trust are now fighting fans. And it's a really strange. I sometimes say we almost live in an alternate universe, because you've actually got, even I think today or yesterday, Gareth showed me that you got a legal advisor of the trust who's actually threatened a fan with legal ramifications, and you've got a board member that's actually back that up, and this is no one connected to the club. This is just a regular fan who possibly just disagreed with what the trust wanted. It's a really strange dynamic that's happened, and if you take a little review of social media, all you really see is trust board members fighting with fans. We're not fighting with anybody. It's just so it's a very strange, very peculiar position, because you would think that the trust is the body that represents the fans, and why are they find themselves fighting so much with fans? At some point, somebody really, like Andy as chairman, should look at that and go, guys, we might have got something a little wrong here. Like if we're fighting with fans all the time, you know, fans aren't unintelligent. Fans are very intelligent, you know, and they can look at things and they can see. So I think one thing I would say is we just got to be a bit careful, because it's not us. We're moving on. We're carrying on with what we do. We've got a football club to run. We're trying to get promoted. We're trying to finish this down. We're trying to do some enabling development to ensure that the football club is sustainable. And we look at, we have a positive outlook on things, and you know, we'll continue with that way. And I think sometimes when you get a point where you're threatening legal action against a fan as a supporters trust, that might be an issue in itself.
Just a final one on this piece of land. You mentioned it there in terms of what the offer that was accepted. You obviously transferred the freehold of the contract into the club and said anything used on there, anything done on there would be for the benefit of the club. What do you mean by benefit of the club? Because I suppose on the surface it could be anything, couldn't it? You could argue that anything could be for the benefit of the club being put on there. What are your plans? Because I suppose that is where the supporters just disagree in a way. They want something in terms of an infrastructure built in there, some form of training ground, etc. Where do you stand, and what are your plans?
Well, you have to remember that as directors of a company, we have fiduciary and corporate governance responsibilities. So, yes, we may disagree with some people about what is beneficial to the football club, but we have a responsibility to ensure that the decisions that we make benefit the company. So we don't know. We've got to look at that a little bit differently. We've got to see how the process goes. We have had, you know, if you look at from the trust and from even councillors at the last meeting, we've had possibly every Olympic event covered on what should go on that land. We've had a velodrome, we've had a swimming pool, we've had an athletics track, we've had a boxing ring, we've had an equestrian centre, we've had a training ground, etc., etc. And you've got to look at that piece of land and you've got to say, okay, well, first of all, how do all of those things benefit the football club? And who pays for them? Who develops those? Who pays for them? And how are they funded? So we would actually throw it back. And what we'll probably do is on the 30th, which we'll probably talk about, is a fan consultation hearing. And what we may do, and as we alluded to we may actually ask. Let's ask what goes on there. You know, we've seen, like, for example, Tom got a question from Roger, I think, who was the previous chairman of the trust. And it's a very legitimate question. Why can't we put a five-a-side complex out there? And he said all the non-league teams are doing it. And whilst I understand what he's saying, I think the confusion comes is that what a lot of them are doing are ripping up their pitches and putting 3G on their pitch, which is a completely different entity to put in like a type of goal centre out there. But you know, we're a partner of goals. So first of all, do we really want to compete with goals, which is down the road? That's the first thing. We've done the numbers. I've been involved in America in that sort of activity in five-a-side and indoor. I've got a friend of mine that's been involved with one of the largest indoor complexes in five-a-side indoor complexes is in New England. So I know that we know the numbers, we know what that generates, and we just don't see it. We don't see the investment that's required, and it's not a small investment. You know, I think there's a five-a-side pitch going in, an all-weather pitch going in full size in Malton. I think that was actually in our council meeting, and it was like almost £1 million. But then you talk about, you know, do you make it bigger? Do you have bigger pitches and things like that? We don't see the business case for that, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not us saying, it's not us shunning ideas. That's not us saying, oh, you know, we don't want to develop it or whatever. We just don't see the business case. A rooftop bar has been mentioned a few times by members of the trust. Again, we don't see the business case in that, and so it's not wrong to say we don't see a business case. We've looked at, as you can imagine, over this time, we've looked at everything. And you think about some of the more outlandish ideas. A swimming pool, oh, that's great, fantastic community benefit, but if the community really needed a swimming pool here, do we not think that they would have found land somewhere else, or they would have come to us and said, we want to put a swimming pool in? Swimming pools are very, very expensive. Velodromes are very, very expensive. Who develops them? Who pays for it? And the ongoing costs are quite high. So what will we do with that land? It's a good question, and it's a question we will ask the fan base. What do you want to see? But what's realistic? We live in a real world. We've got, if you think about it, we've got to invest. At the moment, with this stand, to buy the land, we've still got to invest under 5-6 million quid. You know, and then then someone throws at you, well, you're not doing anything because you're not putting in a swimming pool or a velodrome. Yeah, you've got to look at that. You know, I think Councillor Roberts said that we should put a car park over there. Well, car parks are also quite expensive. So, you know, so we've got to look at what makes sense. Is it an entertainment complex? Is it a retail complex? Is it, you know, an extension of the warehouse? We don't know. Let's talk to the fans, and let's but in a realistic way. That's our view. We've got to be realistic. There's not unlimited funds. We're not in a position where we can just build whatever we want and it's great. That's just not where we are as a football club. We have to make sensible decisions, and that's the whole process of this has been making a sensible decision.
You mentioned there about talking to fans, and of course at the end of the month you've got the consultation. What do you hope to get out of that?
To hear what the fans want. You know, I've just read 4 very good emails that James sent. Very good emails. You know, with a whole range of ideas, and a lot of the 30th is not so much based around this stand, and even that area. It's more about, okay, what do we offer? What can we improve on? Where can we invest? Because we are saying that there's going to be some money to invest. So what can we do? Now, again, it's reality. It's reality. You know, we've had to, with this deal, we've probably had to, you know, invest another £1 million into the land to enable us to get to that position of getting an agreement. So that does impact the ability on further sort of building work at this point. That would probably end up being a phase 2, and we've always talked about a phase 2 of the north and the south. You know, unfortunately, we've had to spend an extra million quid, which impacts that. But what can we do? What can we do at the Cars Bar? We've talked about, you know, internally we've had these conversations, and we're going to throw out our ideas as well. But and I say our, you know, with all the people, all the staff, all the key members of staff, you know, from catering all the way through to marketing and commercial, etc., etc. We've had those meetings, and you know, Cars Bar, perfect example, needs a bit of a makeover. We've already done it once in our ownership, but it needs another one. Do we put on a marquee type or a roof type for the outside area? That's definitely on the agenda. The fan zone, where does the fan zone go? Everyone that I spoke to at the 125 game, which was a fantastic event, you know, mentioned how much fun it was to have a few more things at the outside the Cars Bar. There is an argument. We've talked about the fan zone here, but there is an argument to say that the fan zone really should be outside the Cars Bar rather than outside the east stand, because the west stand is really the entrance to our club, and so we want to ask that. Where do you think the fan zone should go? We need to improve. Again, it's our belief we need to improve the north and the south bars. You know, maybe a more permanent fencing, etc., etc., and maybe some marquees. But again, let's ask the fans what's their experience. That's why we're inviting everybody in. What's your experience? What can be better? You know, chips has been a big thing that's come up. You know, and I've asked, why can't we have chips? It sounds like a real simple thing. Of course it does. But then everyone talks about, you know, ventilation and extraction fans and the cost of that, and that could run into the tens of thousands, and etc., etc. So that might not be possible in the concourse. But do we have a different option, food option as well, outside in the fan zone? All of those conversations. So that's what we're looking to get out of the fans. It's not about, I'm a better fan than you because I've got this opinion and you haven't. It's about, let's come together and let's talk about it. Listen, we consult our fans. There's no question that as a club, and we've got compliments from fans groups. We've got compliments from national level in terms of EFL and the FA about how we consult our fans. Let's think about it. We've had 4 votes in the last, you know, in I think 3 or 4 votes in the last sort of 6, 7 months, 8 months. A year. We talk to our fans. Tom is a great resource for that. Tom's always pinging us emails. I've been asked this, what do you think? And he'll go back to them, and we've got a WhatsApp group where he pings it. A lot of the stuff Tom does is not, you know, it's not, you know, videoing himself at a board meeting, etc. A lot of the work Tom does, he does on a Saturday afternoon, either in talking to fans in the terraces, on the bus, on the way to away games. Tom's there, he's talking, he's engaging, and that's what it's really about. It's about engagement. It's about talking to the fans and finding out exactly what they want. We can't deliver everything. We won't deliver everything, but it's just a case of just trying to find out what's required. How can we make it better?
Who knew the answers? Just chips. Simply,
Yeah.
it's just chips. That's all you need.
And listen, you're right. And sometimes it's challenge. It's me saying, well, no, can we get to it? Can we do this? Can we do that? Because sometimes, of course, you get comfortable but some things aren't as easy as some things are just not as easy as it sounds, or it requires a significant investment. And don't forget, we do invest in the football club every day. The club doesn't make money technically, so there is money being fed in, and which is fine. But you can't then just spend. There has to be, you have to have a balance of what you can spend on, and then things like the enabling development has a massive impact. We've got seats, we're ready to go really, and for the south stand and the west stand, ready to go. But we've got to, there is a balance with, getting to a point where, can we get some funds? Can the club get some funds out of the enabling development? There has to be that balance. So the biggest risk for us, or the biggest risk for the football club, is the land going to a developer that has no interest in doing anything with the football club. Of course, that's a huge risk for us, and we understand that as a football club, and we have to make sure that we're hoping that doesn't happen. But on the flip side, we've got our plans in place. We've given the council a timeline of what we'd like to do in terms of development around the ground, with seats, with the north and the south stand bars, with the cars bar. What improvements can we make? And hopefully, what we're looking at is, can we make some improvements? Can we make some improvements before the east stands are built? Because can we make some improvements to some of the other areas before the east stands are built? It's just a balance of return on investment for the football club, and etc. So, it's a lot of hard work going forward. So hopefully we can get there.
Just finally, beyond the pitch stuff for a final one. 8 games left. Have you ever seen a kind of tighter run-in? It's pretty remarkable, isn't it?
It's incredible, really. I've seen quite a lot of stuff on my own Facebook from just not even from fans. It's from League Two generally, and football fans in general. Wow, look at this race, and it's true, every time there's a game, you're looking at it, and people moving up and moving down, and I've said to John, we've got a wonderful opportunity. We've over the last sort of 6 weeks, we've missed a couple of opportunities. We know that, John knows that, the players know that. We would have, but we're certainly trying. That's the one thing, we're certainly trying. And been very unlucky. I think we've been very unlucky with injuries. All the players, and the hardest thing with injuries is, even if a player's out for 2 weeks, it's not 2 weeks, is it? Because it still takes a week to get going, and it's probably ends up being like, until he's back up to speed, it's probably 3 to 4 weeks. So, it's and very unlucky with Sean, Tyler. Season-ending injuries. They're tough to take. This is the wrong time for us to be getting those injuries. But as you saw on Saturday, the lads, I think the fans walked away from that incredibly disappointed and frustrated. But they definitely fans walked away from that saying that they've given their all, and they've had a go. And we would have liked to get a better result, but we didn't, and we move on.
Thank you very much.
Just one thing is that some fans in certain areas still question your commitment to the club and your long-term commitment.
Well, 6 years is quite a long time,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's quite funny, really, Jeremy. We get criticised for not doing anything for 6-7 years, but then we get criticised for our long-term commitment. So, we're here, we're committed. Listen. A lot of the stuff is noise. We know that. A lot of the stuff is social media noise. Social media is pub conversations. It's people. What used to happen in the past. People are having those conversations on social media. So we understand that. Listen, the full council meeting was incredibly frustrating at times, where even councillors were believing some of the stuff and listening to ethics came up. And one thing we've proved, and I have to say it, one thing we've proved is David's been a lawyer for a long time. I've been in business for a long time. There's been a lot of things that have been thrown at us through this period, but there's nothing stuck. There's no proof. People could say what they want, and we're not going to challenge fans. We're not going to legally challenge fans unless somebody really crosses the line and it starts to impact our lives. But we're just not going to challenge fans like in that way. But you hear so much stuff, and some of it is just, and some of the stuff we hear is awful. It's bullying. It's bullying. But we're big enough. We've got a job to do here at the football club, and luckily we've got tremendous level of support. I come to the games on a Saturday, and it grounds me a little bit. Sometimes you can get a bit frustrated, but the truth is, you come on a Saturday and people are coming up to you and saying, "Thanks for what you're doing. Really appreciate it."
Yeah.
People like, I look at some of the other clubs that are in trouble. The Oldhams of the world. I think Dundee had some problems this weekend. People are protesting all over the place. I look at that 125 game and I go, "Oh, actually, you know what? Some people actually do like us. Like, we are actually doing a decent job," because you actually forget. Sometimes you forget, and you listen to some of the noise. So I think in general, like, our commitments here, we're here. I've got a lad who's involved in the academy. I'm here. Yeah, I've still got a place in Florida, but I'm here. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with something with my father who's really not very well in hospital in London, and so I'm spending a bit of time down there. I'm here we're here, and David's tremendously involved and supportive, and he may be in Dubai, but he's got a place in England, and still comes to England regularly, and he comes to the ground. He may not be coming to every match, but there's a lot of people that support the football club and don't come to every match. So that shouldn't dictate whether he's committed or I'm committed, what games we attend and all that kind of stuff, because we are here, and maybe I shouldn't be here now. Maybe I should be in London at the hospital. But sometimes life does go on. And it's probably something that a lot of fans can relate to, because there's a lot of fans that have been through that type of stuff. And myself, David, James, Gareth, Jamie, Caroline, all the people that have got things going on.
Yeah.
We're not sitting here trying to plot how badly we can run Northampton Town Football Club, or plot how much we can do it down. We're sitting here trying to think of ways that we can make the club better.
Yeah.
We don't always get it right. We'll never get it right every time. But if you look over the history of our 6-7 years, I think we've got more right than we've got wrong.
Yeah.
Overall, and here we are. We're sitting third in the league, and we've got 8 games to try and get promoted. And whether we do or whether we don't, it won't be for a lack of trying. It will be that maybe we made a wrong decision in the transfer window, or maybe we got Mike Reed refereeing us just before he retired, and all those things. But listen, we are always going to get criticised. As a club, we're going to get criticised. As individuals, you're going to get criticised. But I think I just don't feel. I feel the majority of the fans are behind us.
Yeah.
Full stop. And if I was going on my Facebook and all I was getting was abuse, and all I was getting was I was having to fight and argue with all the fans all the time, then I'd probably say maybe we're getting some things wrong.
Yeah.
But I really don't. Even after we lose, I don't get much criticism. I really don't. Normally that's when you get hammered. I'm sure on the official site, Gareth sees and Jamie sees a bunch of stuff, but I just don't see it. I don't see that sort of stuff, and so in reality, I think we've done all right, and I'll stand by that.
And you're going to be here for a while, yeah? Because you mentioned the phase 2, the development and things like that, and the extra investment you put in. So you're here for the long haul.
Absolutely. What is the long haul? I don't know. Things change in life. Again, I don't want to harp on about it. But Dad, he thought he probably had a bit longer than he has. So in fairness, life changes, and you've got to adjust to that. But we've got no intention on that. We're committed even in part of the agreement in terms of. We've got to get some stuff done. Yeah. But also, we're never. Again, you never say never in football, and you just got to take every day. We're not big planners. I'm not going to say to you, we're going to be here for the next 25 years. I'm sure there's a few people that are really happy that I don't say that. but the reality is we're here, we're committed. Listen, we've paid the bills for the last 6 years. During COVID, it was a very difficult time for everybody. But we continued to pay people. If we're not committed, we wouldn't have done that. We'd have said, "No, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Good luck with it." But we also need some stuff to happen. The football club needs stuff to happen, and the Sildara bid is frustrating, and the potential challenge is frustrating. But fans need to understand how important it is that we do get the agreed deal that we've worked very hard to get to. We can get to that conclusion.
Great stuff, Kelvin. Brilliant.